You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast and check us out online at beardedtheologians.com. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
This week on the Bearded Theologians, we're concluding our Ephesians study, looking at Ephesians chapter 6. And Zach, this is one of the great chapters in the book of Ephesians because everybody knows what the armor of God is. And
that's right.
Zach, if you had to pick a piece of armor, which one are you?
It's fascinating you asked that question, Matt, because I preached on this not too long ago, and I think the most important piece of armor in this is the belt, because if you don't have a belt, your pants are going to fall down, and you don't want to get caught with your pants down. You just don't. I think the belt is the most important thing that holds all of this armor together. I told that story when I was preaching on this. I asked the congregation, I said, when's the last time you forgot to put a belt on? And you were walking and, got embarrassed a little bit. And I said, for me, it was last Thursday. I was walking from the house to the church, forgot to put a belt on. And it was almost bad. It's important. Belts are important. What about you, Matt? I don't know why that was so passive aggressive. My apologies. I'm passionate about the belt.
You are very passionate about the belt.
By the way, just a fashion tip for all of our listeners. I don't care if you tuck your shirt in or you don't. Wear a belt always. Thank you.
I don't like belts.
I don't care. You look silly without one. Any outfit is made better by a belt. I watch a lot of Queer Eye. They would tell you not to wear a belt, but I think Tan France is wrong. Sorry, I'm done.
Dad shorts don't require a belt, though.
Yes, they do.
Only when you tuck in the shirt do you require a belt.
In or out, need the belt.
So anyway, to answer your question, like verse 20 speaks to me. I'm an ambassador for the chains for the sake of the gospel. Pray so that the Lord will give me the confidence to say what I have to say. That's kind of where I lay my hat.
Well, that's not a piece of the armor, though.
It is, too. It is for me. It's the chains.
The chains. So you're the wallet chain of the...
Yes, I'm the wallet chain. I hold it all together.
So ridiculous. So in this, the armor of God, this is one of the stories that we... one of the only stories I think we can tell our children that Paul wrote, maybe. Well, but it's a popular one, right? I've preached it for children's camps. I've preached it all. It speaks to all people.
Yeah.
And why? I mean, why is the armor of God important?
Well, so in the Wesley Study Bible, it has this really great note. It says, Wesley stresses that even if one has this armor, resisting powers of darkness requires engaging in insistent prayer and exhibiting continual daily dependence on God, not just the gifts he gives. I think it's one thing to have the armor. It's a whole other thing to actually, I mean, I hate to say use the armor because that means you're going in the war, but I think to know that you have the armor there is healthy and good. And, I think, it's one of those things like I part of the reason why I have a hard time with it is because it had been used and abused in my life. And I don't necessarily like, I struggle with the war imagery. That's just me.
Too.
But I think for me, like every time I think of this, I think about when I worked in a Christian bookstore and they had the kids' armor of God, and we would put that on and just beat the crap out of each other with it.
Yes. Well, and I think that's the thing. That's something that I focused on when I did this series of, so there is some war and armor imagery here, right? But that's what Paul knows. That's the people Paul's speaking to. And I think we've misused and abused this for a long, long time to make it, well, it's spiritual war. Well, you're going to war with people who don't believe or whatever. And I don't think so. I really don't. I have a hard time with that imagery or that as well. But when we look at the whole armor of God differently, and we look at just what each piece means and represents, it's less of this war, it's less of this battle, and more of I don't even know the words to put it in. But it's not.
So if we were to put this in today's context, what would that, like, if we were to use something, what would we use for today? I would actually probably say, power up your smartphone for God.
Well, sure, yeah.
And that
it's
each
just
app that you have is key towards your spiritual life and your spiritual health. And I mean, you could point to different things, and
right.
And I think that would be interesting.
These were the tools, classic tools that they had.
Yeah,
he knew. He picked the words that he knew the context would hear, right? And yeah, smartphones work. Even just getting prepared, putting on your clothes, right? You dress for the job that you have. These guys dressed for war because that's the job they had. It would be no different than putting on a suit or putting on church clothes or putting on your regular clothes, t-shirt and shorts, for whatever. But you're getting dressed for the work that you have to do that day. And I think when we can take the armor, the war imagery out of it, it makes a lot more sense for us today, and it's less of a aggressive piece of scripture and more of a, oh, here's just what we get up and put on every day. And it's not to go to war, but it's just to go into life with the best tools that we have to put forward.
Well, and it's kind of like, from 18 until really the end, it's kind of putting it all into practice. Offer prayers and petitions in the Spirit all the time, stay alert by hanging in there and praying for all believers. As for me, pray that I will open my mouth and I will get the messages that confidently makes this secret plan of the gospel known. And then Paul's talking about himself because, what else does Paul not?
Right.
I am an ambassador in the chains for the sake of the gospel. Pray so that the Lord will give me the confidence to say what I have to say. Talk about something that, I think preachers need to look at almost every week. That you are an ambassador for the gospel,
right?
And I would be intrigued to ask, and it would be one of those, we're not going to publish this kind of thing, we won't put your face into it. How many preachers actually do pray for God to give them the confidence for the Holy Spirit to speak through them,
right?
And not just that subtle prayer that they pray before their sermon, but throughout the whole week. How I know for me, that's something I'm constantly thinking about, and that for me, I always try. I'm right now, I'm 2 sermon series ahead, but I'm a constant in prayer as I come back to what I put down for my notes for this week, and thinking about what I'm preaching on, and kind of centering myself in that and asking myself, what, Lord, speak to me and speak through me. Yeah. And I
well, and that's always my subtle prayer when I'm writing and prepping for sermons is this something I want to say, or is this something that I need to say? And it's that prayer of, let these words be yours and not mine, and let me know the difference. And there are days that works, and there are other days I ignore that.
And so I think, as we kind of bring the series to a close and this conversation to a close, I think if we looked at Ephesians as a overall kind of thing, we can ask ourselves, really, how are we living? You could say this with almost every book of the Bible, but I think this one in particular calls us out to pay attention to what are we putting on? How are we making a connection with God, and how are we living our lives in faith in such a way that, people will know what we're doing?
Right. Oh, I think so. It's one of those things where you're right. We live in that way where people notice something different, right? And notice a good difference in us. I like this. I would be interested to hear what people's favorite piece of armor is, what they make sure they put on every day.
Yeah.
Because I know, in theory, we'd like to say, we put it all on, right? But there are days. Right. There are days we like to go shoeless. It's interesting.
If you asked me, and I kind of joked, and I stayed away from it because I'm really good about being passive aggressive on that.
No, just admit it. You want to be the wallet chain and the armor of God.
Well, if Paul knew what a wallet chain was, I think I probably would be.
You are old. For those of you who are not watching video, I got a dirty book.
I think for me, it's putting on the shoes so that we can spread the good news of peace. And, I think that to me, that's what I always try to do. It's not, like that's what I want to do. And that's where I feel like God has definitely called and led me to do is to try to be a peacemaker in my community and in the church that I serve. And sometimes that's easy and sometimes it's hard.
Yeah. It is.
But
I don't think any of this stuff's easy. Right?
No. And so, we would love to hear from you. So go back and binge listen from Ephesians 1-6 and ask yourself, maybe this question, how did this speak to you? Maybe it means you go back and actually read the book of Ephesians to see if we actually were talking about things in the book of Ephesians. Because obviously this podcast is derailed.
We could have been making this stuff up.
Or, ask yourself, how's the Spirit speaking to you, and what is God calling you to do? What is God calling you to put on? Because I think Zach's right. I don't think we put on the full body of armor. I think that's that's as much as we would love to think that we do, we really don't. And ask yourself, what do you need to put on? And maybe what do you need to take off? Maybe because it's worn and broken and needs to be replaced, and give it to God and allow God to renew that and refine that.
I like that.
And so, wrestle with that. And that's what we want to encourage you to do. And so we'll encourage you to go on our website. Hopefully by now we've gotten some new blogs up. And if you want to write a blog for us, please send us a blog. We'd be glad to look at it and see if it fits into what we're trying to do. And we give you thanks for our listeners. We'll encourage you to go on our website, buy some stuff. I know I went high church there.
My wife's sitting over here.
You should pan the camera around.
Well, I'd have to go way around.
And I'm sure she's making all sorts of faces at you now.
She is. She's trying to make me laugh.
But man,
so there's going to be some editing at the end of this podcast.
This podcast has definitely derailed this week, but that's okay. Sometimes it happens. But we want to encourage you to be in conversation with us through our social medias and all that stuff. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
We hope you've enjoyed the conversations that we've had today on the Bearded Theologians Beardcast, and we'd encourage you to continue those conversations online at beardedtheologians.com or on our Facebook page. We also hope that you pick up a couple of coffee mugs to satisfy your coffee mug collection. Have a good day.